it's Sam, coming from Frog 12. Today we're doing the comparisons of the beauty blenders and sponges and things like this. This is my Real Techniques Complexion Perfection sponge. I used it today. That's why it's already squishy and big. Normally it's a little shorter and smaller. So this is my beauty blender. Mine is a white one right now, and this is a dry size. Still quite soft. Did you see that? Put it next to my face so you can see how small it is at first. So it's small. And then this is the Soho London complexion sponge. This one came in the Snow White packaging. This one's red. The one I had before of this kind was bright pink. Put it right next to my face so you can see how small it is. It's still quite squishy. And then these were the Soho London sponges from the, was it Sleeping Beauty, where they were the fairy sponges. This is an egg one. It's quite firm. This is how small it is, dry. Here's the pink one. This one's a little squishier. I think it's because of the design of the actual sculpt. It's still quite firm. Here's your size. And then the little blue one, which I had high hopes for. It's quite firm. It's kind of like a stress ball. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm going to step away for a second and get these all wet and show you them wet. I'll be back in a second. My hand's still a little bit wet. So we'll start with, again, the beauty blender. I re-rinsed it even though it's still got makeup on it. Or not beauty blender. This is the Real Techniques Complexion sponge. Complexion Perfection. And I really enjoy this one. This is actually the second one I've bought. Because it did disintegrate after about 8 months. Right around here the sponge started tearing. It has a nice bounce to it. Lightweight, nice flat surface for packing in that foundation. I really enjoy pressing foundation into my skin. That's what I did today. And then you can use this little tippy point for like concealer or pressing in concealer crevices. Very good sponge for $6.99 at Ulta or wherever you can find Real Technique brushes and sponges. And this is the size. It's usually smaller when it's dry. Going to the favorite of mine is my beauty blender, and this is it wet and squoze out. You're supposed to soak it and squeeze it a couple times and then roll it in paper towels to get the excess water out. So it's moist, but it's not wet, it's not damp. And put it up here. See how big it grew? It's magic. Now this is my favorite because it feels like it does the work for you when you pounce. And I use this end. A lot of people use this side to pounce. I enjoy the extra bounce when I use the tip and push it in. And when it collides with my skin, it kind of presses things out. Science, science, science. So it's definitely a nice way. It doesn't absorb too much product when you're using liquid foundations because you use it wet, and it just feels so good. It's like, it just feels so good when you pounce. And then I really love the shape of this because this one is even easier to get into that hard to reach area, you know, and you can use it on its side and then you can roll it over and use it for powder. To press it into your skin, which I do sometimes if I'm not using a brush. Again, mine's white. They call it the pure one. I prefer the black one. It doesn't show the stains as much because you can get this really clean. There's a couple stains still on mine, but that's okay. It's still clean. Okay, so moving on to the Soho London ones. This is that big one from the Snow White container. And it really did expand. Now, what's interesting about this one is it does soften up, but it's really heavier and dense. Like, you can see how not quick that squishes. That's not me holding it. That's not, see? It takes a while for it to come back. But it does a good job of blending in makeup. The last one I had, the pink one, since it wasn't my favorite, I actually decided to experiment with it, and I cut it in half And then I thought it worked even better. I don't know why. It just, once I got rid of that hard edge right here, it's not even a hard edge, but it worked much better for me. But this one does a good job. Not as squonky, bouncy, harder, firmer, heavier. It's harder to squeeze out the water because it's such a dense foam. But I enjoyed it. I do enjoy this sponge. See, it still has a lot of water in it, and I squeeze it out really good, but there you go. Anywho, in a jiff, this one does great. This one cost, I think because it was a Snow White one, this one was $9.99 for the one sponge. So it's more expensive than the Real Techniques sponge, but this came with the packaging of Snow White. And I'm pretty sure actually when I bought the pink one, it was expensive too. It was like $8.99 or $9.99. But if you can't get to an Ulta, and all you can find is a Walgreens or a CVS where they sell the Soho Londons brushes and sponges, this is a good sponge. It's good. It's not my favorite again. Okay, here's the stinkers. After I showed you how big the other ones got, right? Start with that green one. It did not grow. No growth. It did not soften. No soften. And it barely took on any water, which is an interesting thing for something else. I'll show you in a second. Again, with the pink one, it did not grow. It did not soften. And surprise, surprise, the blue one, it did not grow. And it did not soften. The only one, because I tested these with foundations, and the only one, this one did not work. It was like rubbing an egg on my head. This one did not work. It was like rubbing an egg on my head. This one worked okay, and I'll tell you why. Because when you bounce it down, you have that flat surface, flat enough that you can like stamp makeup onto your face. It just doesn't blend as well as you want it to. But my sister and I discovered this tip with cream concealer is great for stamping that down, and the pressure, it's kind of like using your finger of pushing the makeup in for like cream concealer. So this was the one that I was going to keep in rotation for that product. These two I'm going to save for when I do costume makeups or special effect makeups, because these would actually be really good to use with water-based cream makeups, or cream makeups from like Ben Nye or Krylon, or even the face painting kits you can get from, what is it, Tulip, at like the craft stores. You can use this to push product around on your face, and use pinpoints and stuff to blend, and you won't feel like you're ruining your own very favorite makeup brush or sponge that you use every day. But for the three, it cost $12.99 for three, and the only one I can use daily if I wanted to use cream concealer is this one. I almost feel like it's an eraser. That texture, like if I scrubbed, it's an eraser. There you have it. So, I would not waste my money on the trio, even though they're so pretty and the package was so pretty. And I will find uses for these two extra sponges. I would spend the $20 on the Beauty Blender. If you take good care of it, it lasts for so long. Or, you can go with this one, the Real Techniques sponge. This one would be my third choice because it costs more than the Real Techniques sponge and doesn't perform even a third as well as the Real Techniques sponge. So I know there's other dupes for the Beauty Blender out there. I know I got one for my sister from Ulta that she really likes. I did buy her first Beauty Blender for her birthday, and I think she's enjoying it. She really won't tell me. She is a bargain hunter, and it's hard for her to spend money on high-end makeup products. So I think she's trying not to admit that she likes it. I don't know. But, and I also know Jen from Broke Girl Makeup just got her first Beauty Blender, and I know she got a black one. Because I know Lynette McGee, her best friend, she also has a channel, sent her the mini ones, the little mini green ones, and she was using them for her concealer. And she finally broke down and got her own full-size one, and I think she's been enjoying it. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. If you want to try a sponge and you think it works great for you, do so. I just want to let you know my opinions, some of the differences on these sponges, and just give you my educated experiences with these products. Again, my number one sponge is the Beauty Blender, and it changed my world when I first got one 2 years ago. I think that they're worth every penny. And oh, and to clean these sponges, you can either get the solid or liquid Beauty Blender cleanser from Sephora or online, Or what I do is I get the solid Castile bar soap from Dr. Bronner's, and I usually get the lavender scent because that's the one I like. And that one cleans these sponges just as well as the expensive Beauty Blender cleanser. All you do is wet the sponge, use the bar of soap, and as you go you can see product coming out, and you just kind of keep squishing water in and out, and it works great. If you feel like you need to sanitize these sponges while still damp, and put it in a microwave safe container, and in 20-second intervals, microwave it. You don't want it to burn, you don't really want to see steam. You just want to get it hot, almost too hot to touch, because then you know that it's been cleaned, sanitized. So, anywho, my opinions on these makeup sponges, take them or leave them. And thanks for hanging out with me for this 10 minutes of sponge talk, and I'll see you next time. Just remember, it ain't easy being green, but it sure is fun. Bye.